This is Chapter 9A Study Guide. And we're going to do our first problem, which is to simplify and state any excluded values. All right, so, sorry about that. I'm trying to shift it. There we go. So to simplify, we first have to factor. The numerator, I can factor out of 4x, and I'm left with x minus 2. The denominator can be factored into factors of 2 that subtract to 1 is 2 and 1. The negative tells me the larger has to be negative. Okay, so notice that I can eliminate the 2x minus 2's. So the simplified version is going to be the 4x. Whoa, sorry about that. I'm still in red. There we go. So the simplified version is 4x over x plus 1. Well, that looks like that one. Our excluded values will come from the entire denominator. So that's going to be x cannot equal 2 or negative 1. Okay, now my next one. Just simplify and state excluded values. So I factor. My numerator becomes x plus 3 and x minus 2. Factors of 3 that subtract to 2 would be 3, and 1. Wow. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm being too fancy for myself. So this should have been x minus 1. The larger had to be 3 because of that term. All right, my denominator factors into factors of 6 that add to 5 are 3 and 2. They're all pluses, so they're all pluses. All right, so if you notice that, again, I can cross these guys off. So my simplified term is x minus 1 over x, minus 2. I lost my minus somewhere. All right, but now my excluded values, these come from this whole denominator. So it's going to be x cannot equal negative 3 or 2. That would be my whole answer. All right. Simplify. So again, we've got to factor it. X, I can pull out an x out of each one. So I have x squared minus 3xy plus 2y squared. All right. Now I'll be able to factor that further. But let's factor our denominator. So I can pull an x squared out of this one. And I'm left with x squared minus 4y squared. Now I'm going to factor both the numerator and the denominator one more time. So I still have the x in my numerator, but I can factor the trinomial. Factors of 2 that add to 3 are going to be 2 and 1, and it's going to both be negative numbers. There we go. Now this is over. Now this is a difference of squares. X squared minus basically 2y squared. So this can be rewritten as 2y squared. Okay, so we have x minus 2y and x plus 2y. So as you can see, the x minus 2y's are both going to cancel. Okay, and so this x is going to go away, as is the 2. So we're left with just an x on the bottom. So my final answer is going to be x minus y over x times x plus 2y. All right. x squared plus 3x minus 28. Okay, so I'm going to factor these as I go. So I'm going to rewrite this in factored form. So I have x factors of 28 that subtract to 3 are 4 and 7. The larger is plus, so that means the 7. Over factors of 9 that add to 6, so that's 3 and 3. It's all pluses, so it's all pluses. Now, I'm going to flip this because it's a divide, so I have to flip and multiply. Now I can start to cancel things out because I can cancel factors. So I have an x plus 3 and an x plus 3. I have an x minus 4 and an x minus 4. So my final answer is going to be x plus 7 over x plus 3. And I don't need parentheses on this, so there we go. Okay, so that's going to be B. That was 4. Next page. All right. So now I do the same thing. I have to do a lot of factoring. X minus 3 plus 3, x minus 2, factors of 6 that subtract to 1, x factors of 5 that subtract to 4 are going to be 5 and 1. The larger is negative. All right, and I'm multiplying that by factor of the numerator here. Factors of 5 that add to 6 are going to be 5 and 1 again. So I have x plus 5, x plus 1 over x minus 6, x plus 1. And now I'm going to flip this guy. So x squared minus 3x minus 10 factors to x minus 5x plus 1. And x squared plus 8x plus 15 is x plus... I'm sorry, this shouldn't have been a 1, it should have been a 2. So let me erase that. That should have been a 2, I apologize. Okay, so now I'm back. I've got x plus 2 and x. I'm redoing the same one. Jiminy crickets. All right, let's try this. Okay, 5 and 3. So x plus 5 and x plus 3. Okay, now I can start crossing things out. So I have an x minus 5. I have an x plus 1. I have an x minus 6. Doesn't look like I cross it out. Another x plus 1. Don't have another x plus 1. X plus 5. And the x plus 3. Okay, so now I have what's left. X minus 2 times x plus 2. Please feel free to leave these in factored form. I don't want you making mistakes when you have to FOIL this. X plus 1 was left. Okay, so this would be my final values. All right, here we have to do the parentheses first. All right, so, sorry, that's my clock. Okay, so x cubed minus 1 factors into x minus 1. This is our difference of cubes. X squared plus x plus 1. All right, and this is over difference of squares, so that's x minus 2, x plus 2. Okay, now I'm going to factor the second one, flipping it. So the x squared minus 1 goes in the denominator as x plus 1, x minus 1. And the numerator is now what was the denominator, so I can multiply them. And I've got x minus 2, x minus 2. All right, so I can start to cross some things out. X minus 1, x minus 2. Doesn't look like there's anything else I can cross cancel out here. So, yep, nope. All right. So we've got, this is x minus 2. Shoot, I left it red. Sorry, I needed all, there we go. So I've got x squared plus x plus 1 times x minus 2 over x plus 2, x plus 1. Now, I'm going to flip this because it now gets divided again. So I'm going to factor these two first. So this gives me x minus 2, x plus 1. And the denominator is the difference of squares, which gives me the conjugates x minus 2, x plus 2. Now, I'm going to multiply that by these flipped. So I have x plus 2 and x plus 1 on top, and x squared plus x plus 1, x minus 2 on the bottom, on the denominator. All right, now I'm going to go through and do some canceling again. I've got x minus 2, x plus 2. Well, it looks like all I've got. Okay, so what's left is x plus 1 times x plus 1 over x squared plus x plus 1, x minus 2. That would be my final answer. Number 7, lowest common multiple. So what we're going to do is factor this and look for factors that are in common. All right, so I have, factor out an x, and I have x squared minus x minus 2. And this second one, I can factor out an x squared, and I have x squared minus 4. Factor it one more time. I have x minus 2, x plus 1, and here I have x squared. This is a difference of squares. Hang on, I'm going to give myself a little more space. X squared, and these are conjugates, x minus 2, x plus 2. So what I need is one of everything represented, no duplicates. All right, so I'm going to use, well, I need the x squared because the x squared will also account for the x. I'm going to need an x minus 2, but only one of them, the x plus 1 and the x plus 2. So everything highlighted is part of my lowest common multiple. So what that means is that these two terms, these two different terms are both factors of the number I'm about to write. So I have x squared, x minus 2, x plus 1, and x plus 2. So notice that x is a factor because I've got an x squared. x minus 2 is a factor, and x plus 1 is a factor. On the second term, x squared is a factor, because I've got an x squared, x minus 2, and x plus 2. So everything's represented. So this is my final answer. And you are to leave it in factored form, so we were done. All right, now I have to do a common denominator in order to add these together. So I'm going to have to do an x plus 5 times the x minus 3, x plus 3, in order to get a common denominator. And I'm going to have to multiply x plus 3 to the second term. Now I'm going to have x plus 5 times x minus 3 minus x minus 5 times x plus 3. This is all over my common denominator, which is x plus 5, x plus 3. All right, so I have to FOIL the top, the numerator. I'm going to get x squared plus 5x minus 3x is plus 2x, and then a minus 15. And I'm going to subtract, well, this is x squared, and a minus 5x and a plus 3x, so that's a minus 2x, and then a minus 15. Now, because of this subtraction, I'm going to have to change all the signs. So, if I get rid of this parenthesis, the x squared becomes negative, but I have to change these two to positives. And now I can get rid of this final parenthesis. All right, this is all still over the common denominator. So I have a plus x squared and a minus x squared. That adds to 0. I have a minus 15 and a plus 15. That adds to 0. So really all I've got now is a plus 2x and a plus 2x. So I end up with 4x over my common denominator. X plus 5, x plus 3. We still had that down here just in case you were worried. There we go. But this is my final answer. Subtract and simplify. Yep, that does it. There's nothing I can cancel out of this. I can't factor it any further. All right, so now we move on to the next page. All right, we have an addition and a subtraction. All right, so first off, I have to factor to find my denominator. So I have x plus 6 over x minus 2, x plus 2. And I'm going to be adding that to 1 over x plus 3, x plus 2. And subtracting, boy, I need to make this thing bigger so I don't take up so much space. So my writing comes out smaller. That's my problem. Okay, well, let me do that real quick. I'll try to catch this up real quick. All right, we're going to get this. Nice and big. There, now I can fit my writing in there. Okay, so I have x plus 6 over x minus 2, x plus 2, plus 1 over x plus 3, x plus 2, factors of 2 that add to 5, minus x over Factors of 6 that subtract to 1 are also 3 and 2. Plus 3, because this is a plus and 3 is the larger, x minus 2. All right, now I've got to look at my common denominator. Okay, so I'm going to use x minus 2, x plus 2, and x plus 3. They are duplicated further on down there, but I only need one copy of each. All right, so I have my new denominator is going to be x minus 2, x plus 2, x plus 3. My numerator, though, that's the challenge. All right. The x plus 6, my first term, I have the two 2's, but I still need an x plus 3. I need this x plus 3. So I'm going to multiply this by x plus 3. Okay? So I'm going to have down here x plus 6, x plus 3, plus. Now this second term has the x plus 3 and the x plus 2, but it's missing the x minus 2. So I multiply this times x minus 2. Well, I can just do that. It's times 1, so it doesn't matter. So it just becomes the x minus 2 again. All right. Now for the third term here, I've got plus 3 and a minus 2. I need the x plus 2. So I'm going to multiply this by x plus 2. So I get minus x times x plus 2. All right, so now I just have to simplify that. I'm going to have to FOIL and then put things all together. So this first term, I get x squared plus, well, that's 6x plus 3x, so 9x. And then I have 3 times 6 is 18, so plus 18. Plus x minus 2, and that is a weird looking x, plus, I mean, there we go. I'll give it a little more, there we go. All right, and then this last term is a minus x times x, so that's minus x squared. And then a minus x times a plus 2, so that's minus 2x. This is all over. X minus 2, x plus 2, x plus 3. Now I'm going to condense. All right, so I have some things that will add to 0. I have a positive x squared and a negative x squared. That adds to 0. Let's see. I think that's it of what adds to 0. So we have 9x, 1x, and a negative 2x. So that's 10x minus 2 is 8x. So I have 8x. And then I have a plus 18 and a minus 2. So that becomes a plus 16. That's all over my common denominator. All right, but this, I can factor out the x, and I have x plus 2 left. So I'm going to be able to cross out the x plus 2. So my final answer is going to be 8 over x minus 2, x plus 3. So that's my final answer. Okay, now we have, if Raul can complete a job in 12 hours, that means his rate, that's R for Raul, by the way, is 1/12 of a job per hour. Stephen can do it in Raul and Stephen. So together, that's their total. They can do it together in 3 hours. So at a rate of 1/3 of the job per hour. So we want to know, what is Stephen's rate? How long will it take Stephen to do the job by himself? Well, that's our x. So what we do now is we're just going to add these two and then solve for x. I'm going to multiply through by 12x. And that's going to get rid of my denominators. So now I have x, the 12 goes away, plus, now the x goes away, 12, equals 12 divided by 3 is 4x. So I subtract the x, 12 is equal to 3x, divide by 3, divide by 3, and I get 4 equals x. So it would take Stephen by himself 4 hours to do the problem, to do the job. Let me get that off. There we go. All right, Steve can paint a schoolroom in 4 hours. All right, so Steve his rate is 1/4 of the job per hour. Miguel and Jamal can each paint the schoolroom in 3 hours. So their rates are 1/3 and 1/3. So this is Miguel and Jamal. How long will it take all 3 of them working together to paint 22 schoolrooms? So working together, we've got to figure out what their rate is working together, and then we can deal with the 22 schoolrooms. So if I multiply through by, well, we're going to do this as 1/x. All right, so now if I figure this out, so I have 1/4, 1/3, and 1/3. So if I multiply again through by 12x, when I multiply by the 4, I'm going to get 3x plus 4x plus 4x equals 12. So 4 and 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So I have 11x equals 12. So I have 11/12. So I can do 11/12 rooms in 1 hour. So let's look at it this way. This is rooms per hour. That's not exactly right. Let's see. No. So this is hours per room. Sorry, I have that backwards. Because this is my denominator, right? So that's hours per room. So I have it upside down. Apologies. So this is hours per room. And we need to know how many hours. So if I multiply it by rooms, I'll have how many hours. So I want 11/12 times 22. So I have 11 times 22 divided by 12. And the answer is 20.17. So just over 20 hours to do 22 rooms. Yep, that would be right. So 20.17 hours. And then we're doing number 12. Okay, I'm first going to factor my two denominators. I have x minus 1, x minus 1. X plus 3, x minus 1. Well, if I multiply both sides by x minus 1, this is going to go away. Okay, so now I have 3 over x minus 1 equals 4 over x plus 3. So I'm going to multiply through by x minus 1 times x plus 3. When I multiply the first term by that, I get 3 times, the x minus 1 crosses out, so I've got 3 times x plus 3. When I multiply the second term, the x plus 3 crosses out, so I've got 4 times x minus 1. All right, so we're going to multiply the 3 in. So we get 3x plus 9 equals 4x minus 4. We subtract the 3x, we add the 4, and that's going to give us 13 equals x, and that's our final answer. All right, now this is a bonus question, so it is not easy. So this is one of those word problems with all the different rates. Okay, so the Garcia family drove to Yosemite National Park for vacation. On the way there, they averaged 60 miles per hour, so that was their rate. On the way back, they averaged 50 miles per hour. Now, we need distance and time to get this all figured out. The thing is, they want the total rate, so that's x. All right, we know that the distance is the same both ways. So we'll do one-way distance is d, so round trip is 2d. Now, we know that time is equal to distance over rate. They went 5 miles at 20 miles an hour. Okay, so time is distance over rate, so time is d over 60, d over 50, 2d over x. Now we know that the time there plus the time back is going to have to equal our total time. All right, now we can get rid of all those x's by merely dividing through by x. Sorry, by d. So all the d's disappear, and I'm left with 1's in their places. So I have 1 over 60 plus 1 over 50 is equal to 2 over x. All right, so now I'm going to multiply through by a common multiple. So we've got 60 times 5, right? Because I'm going to have a 6, a 5, and a 10, is 300, and plus the x. So 300x. Now when I multiply 60 by that, I get 5x. When I multiply divide 50x, 300x by 50, I get 6x. And when I multiply it by the 2 over x, the x's cross out. I'm left with 2 times 300, which is 600. Okay, so now I have 11x equals 600. I divide both sides by 11, and I get 54.5 miles per hour. So that is my final answer, and it's that straightforward. Okay, good luck on the test tomorrow.